Start off with, most of you know, we did obtain an arrest warrant for first-degree felony murder while armed in connection with the May 14th murder of Amy Savopoulos, Savvas Savopoulos, Philip Savopoulos, and Vera Figueroa. At this time, we do not have the suspect in custody. Well, I mean, right now you have just about every law enforcement officer across the country that is aware of his open warrant and are looking for him. I think even his family has made pleas for him to turn himself in, and I would just reiterate that it's much easier if he just turns himself in.
He doesn't like pizza. That is not his food choice.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this little video, what we're going to look at is the case of a disturbing and very tragic home invasion. In 2015, 3 members of the Savopoulos family, Savvas, Amy, and their son Philip, and their housekeeper Vera, were brutally murdered after being held hostage for 19 hours. After they were killed, their house was set on fire. This was a case of extortion. This occurred in Washington, D.C. in an extremely wealthy and exclusive neighborhood. There were embassies nearby. Vice President Joe Biden lived nearby also. The home was worth $4 million, 3 stories high. It was a horrific crime happening in the place you don't usually expect this kind of thing to happen. But who was behind it? What led to it, and what happened after? And was the perpetrator alone? These are some of the things we're going to look at in this video. So, well, let's. The Savopoulos family included 46-year-old Savvas, his 47-year-old wife Amy, their 10-year-old son Philip, and 2 teenage daughters who were away at school at the time of the murders. Savvas was the CEO of American Ironworks in Maryland, a large-scale construction company, and he and his wife rubbed elbows with the Washington elite, and the family was praised for their warmth and generosity. At the time of the murders, he was also only days away from opening a martial arts studio in nearby Chantilly, Virginia. Their housekeeper Vera moved to the US from El Salvador. She was married and had 3 children of her own. She worked as a housekeeper to pay for her kids' college education, and had been working for the family for about 5 years. Vera was planning to return to El Salvador shortly before she was murdered. On May 13, 2015, Savvas was in Virginia preparing to open up a martial arts studio when he got a call from his wife Amy at about 4:45 p.m. We don't know exactly what Amy said to her husband in that phone call, but when Savvas arrived back home about an hour and a half later, Amy, their son Philip, and their housekeeper Vera were being held hostage. Blood evidence also revealed that once Philip set foot in the door, he was attacked and then bound in the same room as the others. During that evening, Savvas made a call to a man who performed odd jobs for him, a man by the name of Jordan Wallace. Jordan didn't answer, so Savvas left a voicemail. He told him to go to Savvas' place of work, American Ironworks, in the morning, to get a package for him. Also that night, Savvas called his home security company, asking how and where the video was stored and how he can access it. At 9:14 p.m, Amy ordered 2 pizzas from Domino's. She included an odd note that she was nursing a sick child, wouldn't be able to come to the door, and to please ring the bell, leave the pizzas at the door, and leave. She left a tip in an envelope outside the front door. The pizza delivery person did as told, and he said that when he arrived, the house was quiet and dark from the outside, apart from one light on at the front door. At 9:30 p.m, Savvas left a voicemail for their second housekeeper, Nellie, telling her that Amy was sick, Vera was sleeping over, and that Vera's cell phone was dead and they don't have a charger. Nellie said this was very strange because neither she nor Vera ever slept at the home.
Amy is in bed sick tonight, and she was sick this afternoon. and Vera offered to stay and help her out.
And in the background of that voicemail Savvas left, you can hear screaming.
He was sick this afternoon, and Vera, he was sick this afternoon, and Vera.
The next morning, at 7 a.m., Savvas called Jordan about receiving the package. He then called the CFO of his company, requesting $40,000 in cash, claiming it was for an equipment auction. The CFO said this was unusual, but that Savvas sounded normal and calm. Jordan then met the CFO and got the money. A few hours later, Amy texted Nellie again, telling her not to come in. At 10:15 a.m., Savvas texted Jordan to put the package on the driver's seat of the sports car in the family garage. He specifically said do not knock, because he was on a conference call. At roughly the same time, Vera's husband and daughter, worried that she hadn't come home from work the day before, arrived at the Savopoulos home looking for her. Vera's husband walked up to the house and said it was very still and quiet. He rang the bell but got no answer, although he heard dogs barking and the sound of scraping, like a chair being dragged across the floor. The dogs, they were Chesapeake Bay retrievers, and it didn't seem like they attacked anyone. Minutes later, Savvas called Vera's husband. He apologized and said that Vera went to the hospital with Amy, and that he will try to find out which hospital and call him back. Well, as that story was bullshit, he was being held hostage, he never called back, obviously. At 10:26 a.m, Jordan texted Savvas, package delivered. And then at 12 p.m, neighbours saw a black man with dreadlocks slip into the Savopoulos garage. They reported it was impossible to tell if someone opened the door or if the man had an opener, but that the door seemed to open for him. Finally, at 1:20 p.m, a man in the neighbourhood saw smoke rising from the home.
Bombshell tonight. We go live. Police revealing a murdered CEO, his young wife, their little boy, and their maid, quote, bound and tortured overnight in their D.C. mansion, then the house set on fire. Who would torture and kill a mother, her little boy, her husband, and the family maid? In the last hours, the only clue so far emerges. Video from that same neighborhood revealing this mystery man shrouded in black, a hoodie covering his face. Is he the killer?
And when the firefighters responded, they found the grisly scene. Inside, the family had been bound, beaten, stabbed, suffocated, covered in gasoline, and then set on fire. The investigation into the crime scene revealed that the phone lines to the home were cut. The 4 victims were in the same room. 10-year-old Philip had been stabbed to death. Vera maybe suffered a heart attack over the course of the incident. The trauma was so severe. But her DNA was also found on the handle of a baseball bat, indicating that at some point, she had tried to fight back. All of the family phones were also missing, as was one of the family cars, Amy's Porsche. It was later discovered in flames in Maryland. So who could do something like this? Well, in the days after the murders, there was a nationwide manhunt. And it didn't take long for the police to get something. Remember that Domino's the family ordered? Well, it may have tasted like shit, but it was a dead giveaway.
When you need a pick-me-up, pick Domino's Pizza.
DNA from a half-eaten slice of pizza, it matched. It matched a former American Ironworks employee, Darren Wint. He had worked for American Ironworks from 2003 to 2005 and had been fired. His hair was also found in the room the family were kept in, on a hard hat in the garage, and on a knife that was found propping open a basement window. Police don't believe that this is how he got into the house, however. They think he may have propped this window open to observe the money drop from Jordan. Originally from Guyana, Darren emigrated to the United States in 2000. He was a United States Marine Corps recruit, but was discharged before his training was complete for medical reasons. He also had a long list of criminal charges, second-degree assault, malicious destruction of property, burglary, theft, assault, a sexual offense, and weapons possession.
A frantic interstate manhunt ends with this man, Darren Dylan Wint, in custody.
It was a long 48 hours, and it was a collaborative effort of a lot of different agencies, all of them part of our task force.
The suspect in that brutal quadruple homicide at this Washington, D.C. mansion, charged with murder in connection with the deaths of Savopoulos, his wife Amy, their 10-year-old son Philip, and their housekeeper Vera. Wint captured inside a vehicle after a police chase.
We continue to follow them. We called PG County Police, and they sent up a helicopter. We got to a situation where we could successfully take them down, and we did our standard practiced vehicle pin maneuver, and we were able to safely pin the vehicles, both vehicles, and place them under arrest.
He was considered armed and dangerous. Relatives describe Wint as an angry, troubled man.
He's very hostile, he's arrogant, he doesn't listen.
Wint has a long rap sheet with arrests for burglary, assault, and concealing a dangerous weapon. That criminal history led to his identification. Police say they tracked him down from DNA on a crust of Domino's pizza ordered to the Savopoulos house while they were being held hostage.
When Darren Wint was arrested 7 days after the murders, he had $7,000 in $100 bills on him. He told his family he won the lotto, as you do, and he probably spent the rest of that $40,000 that he managed to get on random shit. During the trial, prosecutors said that on the morning of May 13th, a desperate Darren broke into the Savopoulos home and first restrained Vera and 10-year-old Philip, who had stayed home from school because he was sick, and then Amy when she returned home from getting coffee. It's still unclear how Darren actually managed to gain entry to the home. It would have been Vera who was there as Amy was out at the time. But there was no real signs of forced entry. They think that Vera might have let him in, like accidentally. He had showed up under false pretenses. After further investigation, it appeared it may have been a forced home invasion, when detectives found a boot print on the door to the Savopoulos home. But that's still not clear. Apparently the Savapouloses were also very lax about locking the old doors, so he may have been able to sneak in a side door that had been left open. He may have been snooping around for a while until he was able to gain entry. Prosecutors alleged that Darren was hopelessly broke and extorted and then killed the family and their housekeeper out of pure greed. After the killing, Darren performed a series of internet searches about how to beat a lie detector test, 10 hideout cities for fugitives, and 5 countries with no US extradition treaty. During the trial, Darren faced 20 counts. That included the first-degree murders of Savvas, Amy, Philip, and Vera. He was also charged with burglary, aggravated kidnapping, theft, and arson. But during the trial, Darren testified that it was his half-brother who lured him to the family's home for a paint and drywall job. And then Darren's half-brother said he needed help unloading the house of valuables.
I think it's fair to say that he feels at this time he was definitely set up.
34-year-old Wint, charged with first-degree murder, allegedly terrorizing, then killing Savvas Savopoulos, his wife Amy, their 10-year-old son, and the family's housekeeper Vera in their home May 14th.
We don't know what other DNA evidence exists. We've only learned thus far about the pizza. Let's see what else is there. Once people begin to understand who else was out there and what was going on, they're going to see him in a very different light.
Darren's defense argued that it was Darren's half-brother who was the sole perpetrator of the murders of the Savopoulos family and Vera. Darren was just there by accident. He didn't have anything to do with it. But even though everybody's pretty much sure that it was Darren, a lot of people do not think he was alone. Darren's defense really tried to throw Darren's half-brother Daryl under the bus, also his other brother Stefan, and say that they were behind the whole thing. Our guy's innocent, it was them. They both had alibis that backed them up though, and they were never charged or suspected by police, so kind of a shitty thing to do to your brothers, but hey.
That you suggest that your client is not guilty of these crimes because he simply doesn't like that as a food choice.
His mother doesn't like pizza. His sister doesn't like pizza. His brother doesn't like pizza. He's got 5 sisters, 3 brothers. They're from British Guiana. There's no Papa John's. There's no Domino's Pizza there. It's a British-speaking country in South America, the only one. It's sparsely populated. It has 750,000 people. It's about the size of Kansas. They don't have pizza there. He doesn't like pizza.
But what does that have to do with anything, whether or not it's his top food choice? If the fact of the matter is his DNA puts him right there at the scene, how do you explain why his DNA is in that particular home? He's got the motive. He has the opportunities. A disgruntled employee had problems with that. Why is he there? You still can't identify why or explain why your client would be there.
I bet you have someone's DNA in your house who's never lived there. Most people do. If I cut myself in this interview room and my DNA is left here and a crime is committed here 12 hours later, does that mean I committed the crime? Of course it doesn't. That is not his food choice. DNA is a junk science.
Why is his DNA on the pizza that was ordered during the time that this family was held, during the 18 hours that they were tortured, brutally slaughtered, and then their house set on fire with, guess what, Mr. Wint's DNA at the scene? That's what is very persuasive here forensically, and in addition to the fact that he knew the family, worked for the victim in this case. That you cannot explain away.
He worked there 11 years ago. No one holds a grudge for 11 years.
What is the coincidence? 11 years later, he decides to go to that family's house during the time that they're being held and tortured and have pizza with them. Does that make any sense, sir? Plus, your client is somebody who has a criminal record, domestic violence, and assault. So all of those things are in keeping with conduct that we're seeing at this particular scene.
He doesn't like pizza. That is not his food choice.
So let's talk about someone we only briefly mentioned. Jordan Wallace. He had only worked for the family for a few months and had a lot of access to them. Police started also investigating him during the case when they found out he had lied to them about the details of his delivery of $40,000 in ransom money to the Savopoulos home. You see, he also had a connection, albeit really small, to Darren. Jordan and Darren once lived in the same Maryland apartment complex, which is also near where the Savopoulos family's Porsche was abandoned and set on fire following the killings. But even though there's that small link that they may have lived in the same complex, not even in the same apartment, there was never any signs that they had ever spoken to each other, any communication. It seems like they genuinely didn't know each other. But the police started investigating Jordan because they said he lied. It seems more like he said some mistruths because his memory may have been, it's a pretty shocking thing to happen to people he was close with. So, essentially what happened was this. Jordan first told police that Savvas texted him on May 14th to tell him to get the money. He said he went to the bank with Savopoulos' CFO, saw him put cash in a manila envelope, which Jordan then took to the house, leaving it on the seat inside a car in the family's garage. He later changed his story in a later interview with police, saying Savvas texted him on May 13th. The night before he dropped off the money, phone records obtained by police confirmed that Savvas texted Jordan on May 13th at about 8:30 p.m. Jordan told police that Savvas texted him on the 14th when he actually texted him on the 13th, that the door to the car in the garage where he left the money was locked, but then was unlocked. Not major lies, I think. Just mistruths, really. And it really didn't amount to anything. And he's kind of been cleared as a suspect because I don't think he really had anything to do with it. Although he did send a picture of the $40,000 to his girlfriend to impress her, I guess. Hey, look, I'm carrying this money. It's not actually mine. Great. Good for you. But it was Darren Wint, in the end, who was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in February 2019.
Sentence that she did with the 4 consecutive terms of life without release. So we thank her for that. We thank the jury for their hard work. I can't imagine how hard it was for them. And hopefully this brings a little bit of closure to the family.
Now, as I already said, the police and a lot of people generally do believe that someone else was involved in this case. Who, we don't know. It seems unlikely that Darren could have done all of this by himself. Another thing is that a witness said that they saw a black guy with dreadlocks walk into the garage and that the door seemed to open for him. who knows, that could have just been, might not have seen what he thought he saw. But who else could have been involved in this remains unknown. Darren, he was sent to life in prison without the possibility of parole, hasn't opened his gob about anybody else being involved. So, well, okay, he accused his brothers, but they've both been covered, so I don't know, it's a closed case, but not entirely closed. And a lot of people are still looking into what happened, really, to the Savopoulos family. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. If you'd like to watch some more of my videos, you can. And if you'd like to see some future videos, please subscribe if you'd like to. You can also check out Twitter, Instagram. There's a Patreon where there's exclusive videos and a Discord, stuff like that. So check it out if you're into that. I will see you as always real soon in the next video. Mike out.